Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the GAIA Daily for November 20th through 23rd, 2020. Wow, here we are, huh? Big shift this weekend, and we're just feeling this yesterday. Mercury emerging out of that retrograde shadow, out of the shadows and into the light. So we are with Mars now direct and Jupiter and Pluto beginning to separate, although they're still 1 degree apart. So we're still officially in Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, which is about the light coming in and breaking down the lower matrix. So with Mercury out of shadow and the sun this weekend moving into the sign of Sagittarius, we are emerging back into the light. And we're kind of going, it's a weird thing because it's like, okay, we're moving out of this retrograde energy, but into eclipse season. And an eclipse season with Neptune square the nodes of the moon. And the nodes are where, when it's the lining up with the nodes of the sun and the moon is what causes eclipses to happen. And Neptune transits always bring a sense of kind of confusion, delusion, what's going on, what's true, what's real. Ooh, yes, this is our world right now. So it's very interesting because here we are being like 2020. I thought we are going to get some clarity, some 2020 vision, and it's not happening. But it will be coming, maybe it's like a delayed effect. 2021, you get the 2020 vision, because wow, we are heading into, because part of the deal is that yes, the sun's moving into Sagittarius, but Venus is moving into Scorpio and Mercury is still in Scorpio. So we got still some Scorpio energy, which is good. It's good for us right now. We need to be willing to go into the depths to have the desire to seek the light. It's a big energy right now, like choosing that higher vibration, choosing your spiritual truth, choosing where you put your attention and your energy, your most precious commodity right now. So it's an interesting time. And next weekend will be the partial lunar eclipse. Actually, a week from Monday, November 30th. And that will be in Gemini. So that energy is about preparing for the total solar eclipse. And that happens on the 14th and then the solstice on the 21st, and kind of flavoring the rest of the year in this epic lining up of energies. That coming out of retrograde, Mars going direct, and yet still really confused. It's almost that feeling of like, the more you know, the less you understand, what's really going on. Now, this is energy, and we've been talking about this all year, but if you don't know what's going on, if you have no idea who you are, where you're going, what you're doing, like how you got here, that means you're doing it right. And you're on the right path because this is all about our bigger spiritual destiny. Big energy of this, the culminating energy, I think, even though it's going to reverberate out through the solstice and Christmas and the end of the year. But the big, big energy is this total solar eclipse that happens very close to the galactic center. And with the nodes in North Node in Gemini, South Node in Sagittarius, and in exact square, coming into exact square with Neptune, it's like a new spiritual direction. And then in order to go in a new spiritual direction, it's like a revival energy of spirituality and claiming, like grabbing on to the light that's coming in and getting back on that spiritual quest, meaning you've got to resolve everywhere you feel like you got off that quest, or you didn't deserve that quest, or you failed in your quest, all that stuff, the Sagittarius South Node, just so in play right now. So the energy of this square nodes square Neptune is like a new spiritual direction coming back into spiritual purpose. And that is very much the energy, this Mars direct, the spiritual awakening, and for the SuperNova Soul, this landing home of that bigger spiritual self, right? And so if this is happening, if you are landing home, trying to land home, this bigger spiritual self, then what your life has looked like, and what you thought you were doing, and what you thought you cared about, and what you thought you wanted to do here might not be in alignment with that bigger spiritual self, right? Like what I've been shown is supernova souls in general operating a very small fraction of who you really are. So this confusion energy is saying you're doing it right. You know, and there is a surrender. There's a surrender energy here to that bigger self that knows more than your little psychological brain. And it's interesting, this revival energy, because this is the time we're in right now. It's like a second American Revolution, but it's a world revolution and a whole omniverse revolution as we have the opportunity to throw off the AI influence from Earth and other planets. And the revolution, the American Revolution, was precipitated by a revival energy. It was a moral, it was like, it was, from my perspective in this work with past lives and supernova souls and the path of these soul groups, there was like this enlightened energy coming in that came into the planet at that time, little pods of these soul groups. And the generation before the founding fathers, there was a big spiritual, moral revival of taking back the power. It really came down to that it all goes back to claiming back like our direct connection to source spirit, and that we don't have to have a preacher who is a certain, like, approved by the government, right? Like, and anybody can get up there and just freaking like speak the word of God, and kind of a reorganization on society on all levels around. Definitely a lot of what we're facing today is destruction of morality and destruction of the ideals, spiritual, what's good and right and true in humanity. And here we are, we're at this place and standing, having an opportunity to stand up against corruption. That's exactly what that revival was about. It's like taxation without representation and, government control, tyranny. Welcome to, 2020. And so we are, there is this energy, this astrology is saying do you want to be a part? You want to have a revival, and the revival in this case is like you into your bigger spiritual self, bigger spiritual purpose, claiming back. There's a thing inside the supernova souls that's like, something's missing. There's something I need to do. There's something bigger. There's something's not right. Like, and then really difficult when the people around you are kind of like, that's silly, like that has no bearing, that has no worth, that has no this, and your compassionate spiritual devotion has been something that's cast aside as invaluable. And yet, like, I'm kind of seeing these supernova souls, these advanced souls, and these energies of embodied masters on the planet right now. It's like taking back that power and true power and connection to source, and throwing off the energies that are not of the light, like a great revealing. This is what's being shown to us. We're seeing very clearly where people are at in their spectrum of giving over their power to these tyrannical energies through technology and control, and those who are standing up in the light, and it can feel overwhelming because it's like, ooh, are there enough of us? But I have to say there's so many of us, it's like the silent majority, SuperNova souls like rising up in their being, and that we don't need as many like as you would think, because we have so much power once we remember. And it comes down to a big energy that we've all been dealing with, consciously or subconsciously, around where we've been programmed to fear our potency, our spiritual potency. And so we willingly handed it over, and that ends up feeding the shadows and the lower matrix. And the big dynamic of thing that's happening on the planet right now is these souls being like, wait a minute, no, not on my watch, like, and holding a vibrational frequency of a different choice for humanity. And that being in that place of power and righteous truth and revival, right? That it's like, and we know everything goes back to source eventually. So God wins, it's like in the end. And so we gotta have, there's definitely an energy though of like, sometimes things just have to play out. And this can be really hard for an intuitive soul, because you have a sense, it's like, well, why can't we just fix it, do it right? Like, God, can't we just adjust this? You'll have these situations in your life, especially when you're dealing with karmic stuff that's old contractual stuff, family contracts, relationship contracts, where it's like patterns through lifetimes. And you're like, okay, I see it, and let's just get rid of it, right? And then it's like, something's got to play out for the other person to get on board with the awakening of the truth and the release of the contract. And, sometimes you have to just let it play out, and it's hard. And that's what's happening on the planet right now. And so it's exciting, and it's scary, and it's unknown. And that's all indicative of exactly where we're supposed to be right now. So confusing times. I feel like it's like trying to offer some sort of intuitive insight. And I'm like, I can't tell you what's going on. I have no idea. But at least we're here together and we're paying attention. That's a big part of the message. It's like, yeah, so you're confused utterly about reality, but at least you're paying attention. You haven't totally succumbed to the mind control. You're present, you're conscious, you're claiming your brain. And that's pretty much all we need to worry about right now, because just really paying attention to when we're feeding the lower matrix by allowing the psychological mind and the lower energies to take a hold. And then I can just see this in the SuperNova souls, like, if you get sucked in, but it's you realize and pull yourself out quicker. It's feeling like this is what I'm seeing in the group, which is great. And a reminder that what we're doing here, and this is kind of the deal with the upcoming events, that we're just in this epic time, like, whoa. And with these eclipse season and the way it's lining up with the astrology and everything. And so it's like, to, just keep your presence and awareness, on this spiritual awakening, and that's more true and more real. And here we are, we're going into a massive portal. We're a little over a week away from that partial lunar eclipse, total solar eclipse, solstice. And so I'm doing I just want to really be present here with the group. And that was kind of what I was getting to, this invisible field that we're working with, which is so powerful. Supporting each other to claim who we are as spiritual beings and this path that we're on, this more truth reality of the revival, like spiritual revival of that the invisible is like way more real than what we see. And that's this Jupiter Pluto energy just breaking down of the world. But again, it's not just the breaking down of the world that Jupiter is showing us. It's because the light is coming in. It's not just breaking down because, and it feels that way when the constructs of your world, of your mind, of your life start to fall away because you're making room for that bigger self. It feels like it's all just crumbling. The sky is falling. And, you don't know who you are. You've lost your complete sense of reference. And that's a good thing, and it's kind of like, we're at this place of like, okay, the tension of the ego mind, egoic existence, struggling against this bigger spiritual self. And this is going on the whole planet, the whole energy of this spiritual awakening trying to come in, and the lower matrix just clamping down, control energies just, and we come back to that energy of surrender. And we're at that place of that we, this whole astrology coming up is like this tipping point, and we're making that, we're crossing over. And that spiritual revival energy is really important because it's like, you guys, this is what this is about, stop clinging. This is why you're here, because even though you're going through your thing, it's like your state, you have found from all your experiences, the definition of a supernova soul, like you've had all these experiences before you came to Earth, right? Evolutionarily and through spiritual ascension. And so it's like, even though you are lost like everybody else, but you still have like way more bearing that this is not all there is, and it's kind of like that sky is falling, and the world is breaking, and it's like, bring it, bring it, because it's false. And we're done. We're so sick of the fake, the narcissist mask. Like, let's get back to reality. And that's part of this Scorpio energy through leading us into this eclipse season. And it's interesting how this eclipse season is like, it's holiday season. Coming back to this Christmas energy of the wonder. And maybe that's that revelation, and the light, you're in the dark and you're falling, trying to find your way, and, in the dark room. And, it just takes one little spark of light, one candle, one flame to light the whole room, And that's kind of the picture. It's like, you guys, the light is so much stronger. It's the power. It's got to fall, and here we are. It's happening. So it's a turning point this weekend. And I think the energies are going to get lighter around, like there's an opportunity for this light coming in, this revelation energy. And the message for SuperNova Souls, grab it, reach out and grab it. Like this, we're in a psychological game, war game. And by taking charge of our mind, our energy, our vibrational reality, and it's not that you're not going to go back down there, right? But just keep bringing yourself back to the light of truth, and that is what wins. We've already won. It's like just pulling yourself out of the game, which is this Mars moving forward. Now, Mars is starting to get to, it's like moving to 16 degrees, I think, here in a few days, finally starting to move forward. And so we're kind of grinding, getting the gears going with the Mars moving direct. But there's also like this Mars retrograde was so profound for the masculine and the divine masculine. And it's like that whole thing of like, okay, time to go. But I don't really know how to move in this way. I don't know how to fight without the fight. I don't know how to claim my will and my strength without a battle, So we're reworking all of that. And so next week, leading up into the partial eclipse, Venus will be in an opposition with Uranus in Scorpio. It moves into Scorpio on the 22nd and kind of like extending the Scorpio season, even though we're moving into, Sagittarius energy, but we've got this deep, mysterious energy still trying to work out, this deep desire. And kind of recognizing, coming back to where we started, this deep desire within the SuperNova Soul to be who you are, to be on your spiritual path. Like, that's really why you're here. It's all that matters. And all of the bad feelings in your life typically will go back to this. So it's like, maybe this is something, because there's another energy that about the breaking of the lower self and the breaking of the world, the breaking of the lower matrix. And there's like a grief process for the individual SuperNova Soul around like grieving your lower self, even though you're like, that's not me. I've been playing just this, game, and it's like, doesn't fit anymore. But there's still like a grief process, that needs to happen. And I think this has to do with the Sagittarius South Node and the Neptune square, because, that Sagittarius South Node is like where you feel like you didn't fulfill your purpose. And this is like the core issue of the SuperNova Soul. This is everything that's wrong with you. Every time you feel depressed, it really goes down to this. The depression is like those gifts and skills that you have and all you've worked for all these evolutions, and it's just sitting inside of you, eating away, making you sick, all that potential. And then it's invalidated, by those control-based relationships around you. And then you're just kind of lost and empty, and you don't feel worthy of these gifts. And it's just like this big mess, right? And all of this energy with that Venus opposite Uranus we're going to feel it for the whole next week, during the week, next week. And it's like a revolution, an awakening in our self-worth for, like being able to go into those shadows around this low self-worth of the light worker and claim back, use the desire energy, this deep, like just yearning that you haven't really been able to understand, and use that to get out of the trap. Use it to validate who you are spiritually. Use it to set your course right now. This whole next couple months is about setting our course in a new spiritual direction. For the SuperNova Soul, it's like towards who you really are and that bigger self, and we're running out of options. It's like you can have the shriveling away in the lower matrix, or you can have like your bigger exalted spiritual self. And it's like we're, crossing over that threshold. And really powerful message that these lower matrix energies, this bloom of the Piscean energy of control, mind control, and controlling of consciousness is making us, kind of keeping, bringing us back down into that lower play. But it also points us right to that core energy, and can kind of, with this Scorpio energy, go back into that energy of desire, your soul's desire, which is interesting because it's like our world celebrates desire and satisfaction in the physical, right? And, I found in my life kind of poo-pooed the spiritual desires, like it's like kind of not important, or it doesn't really matter. And it's like, actually, that's all that matters. Pick yourself up out of that place of low self-worth that's been programmed. Because it's like the low self-worth as a spiritual in your spiritual self and your spiritual journey, that's proportional to the power and the gifts that you have, right? The energy of Uranus in Taurus has a lot to do about unwrapping our gifts. Perfect. That's like leading into this eclipse season. We've got Venus opposite Uranus and that self-worth for our presence, for our spiritual gifts, and claiming back a hold of the worth, the wealth that's there. Very different, it's an interesting picture next to the spiritual revelation and new direction and awakening and flipping over and incarnating your bigger self. It's a very different picture from like what's become of the very materialistic energy of the holidays. And so it's powerful. I mean, we're getting back down to what really matters. And it's almost like maybe that, like I was saying, these last bloom of this control energy is kind of squeezing us into that full surrender, into being seen as who we are, embracing who we are in our bigger spiritual self, enjoying who we are in our bigger spiritual self, and receiving all of the gifts that come with that. And I've long seen this where those souls, like what you've gone through, what you've had to deal with, what you came in here to deal with, in these darkest times, and the persecution energy, what's been stolen from you, your life force, your gifts, your power. And it's like, that's got to come back exponentially, right? All the interference energies that we've had, that when the tables turn, it's like a tidal wave of blessings and support and spiritual guidance, right? Of like in alignment, not the fake, right? Control energy, everywhere's control energy right now. But that new paradigm coming back into that revolution of wealth, revolution of spirit, revolution of self-worth for these advanced souls, and standing up in that spiritual power and surrendering to the process, whatever that might mean. And also, so anyway, the bloom of the control energies, I keep losing my train of thought. It must be important. But the bloom of the control energies is making the SuperNova souls feel more alone, and just remember, like, we're all here doing this together. And that's a big part of like these soul group sessions. The soul group sessions go more in depth than the activations. It's a group intuitive session where you get a sense of what it's like to work with me individually in intuitive sessions, working at karma, contractual clearing, energy clearing, and soul retrieval, energy timeline alignment, soul group work. The whole point of the soul group session is to come together, and by looking at a shared past life energy. So it's pretty broad because it's like everybody who comes to the session has had some sort of similar experience in a past life. And then by looking at that and clearing energies around it, it's like what happens when you work as a soul group is that it amplifies the healing of the individual. And it also creates that field supporting all everybody who's joining energetically to receive. And the main thing is that it opens up these communications, which is the main energy we're dealing with right now of like, you guys, we got to come back together. We got to resolve these things that are just those tentacly contractual things like the low self-worth, that's keeping us from coming back together and working together. We got to do this. This is, it's like, this is the next phase, the next chapter. And yet SuperNova souls in this particular time right now feeling more separated from their spiritual group and support than ever. But maybe that's part of the squeezing, kind of like, are you in it to win it? Are you here for the long haul? Are you going to say yes to the spiritual awakening? Or are you going to cling to the lower false delusional reality, And it's like, we're here for one thing, only for this. And that's kind of maybe the whole point of what I'm trying to get to. So I'm rambling on. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend and just try to enjoy this turning of the tide. to really claim a hold, reach out, grab those rays of light that are coming in. You're here because you have the codes in your DNA to hold this light, to receive this light, and be conscious and deliberate about your surrender to your bigger spiritual self. It's absolutely alignment. It's absolutely in alignment with your highest self. No longer giving your power over to some sort of hierarchical spiritual program where you have to go through levels and get approval and do something specific and work hard and do a whole bunch of chants and mantras and like study all these pages and meditate in a cave for years and all that stuff. It's like, oh, you already did that. Claim it back. And who you thought you were is a figment of imagination compared to who you really are. And of course, as we go to that threshold, we're going to find the fear programming. We're going to find the anxiety. Anxiety will come up, lower chakra, root chakra, because we've all been programmed that we can't come into our full light here on Earth. And yet, why would we even bother coming? We didn't come for that. And if there is a time ever, I think it might be now. So that's kind of the deal with these soul group sessions. Like, dude, we're in 2020 and shit's just so intense, and let's just come together and finish out this year right. Be together. Grow this field. Claim this light. Claim each other. Claim our connection. Claim our spiritual truth. And claim our celebration, creative revival of the next chapter that lies ahead together. So hang in there. Thank you so much for being here and being with me and being with your team. Even if you don't feel them, you're working together, and it's really, really beautiful to see and behold. So let's celebrate together if you can happen to make it to any of those soul group sessions. One for the lunar eclipse on the 30th. It'll be on the 29th. One for the total solar eclipse. That'll be also the day before on the 13th. And then for the solstice. So on the 20th. So they all happen the actual day before. And if you sign up for the partial lunar eclipse, there's a coupon for the total solar eclipse. So that a 50% off, just encourage everybody to be a part of these very special soul group sessions where I just feel like it's this opportunity to break through that bubble of delusion of separation from each other. That is the medicine of SuperNova Soul as we come back together in our pods and our groups. The magic of what we're bringing in these creative expression, these beautiful projects is it's all about its creative potential. It's taking back the fire of life. It's truly living. It's expressing the I am through creative projects, beauty, art, whatever. There's just so much, but it's really about offering a gift to the world that is displaying a deliberate, living, breathing demonstration project that is about getting out of the illusion of separation. So I guess that's maybe the key energy that's keeping these soul groups from finding each other, right? It's like, and maybe going back to that Uranus energy and Venus opposite, and like, ooh, do you deserve it? To be in the arms of the mother and in, the bride of the father as we rebirth Christ consciousness in our field for this revival. So exciting times, even if it doesn't quite feel like it yet. Hold that vibration, grab a hold of those rays. Christmas is coming. So I look forward to seeing you soon on the next update. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.